Hello, my name is Sarah and I am back, baby. I was in a reading slump because the last book I read, Dragon Republic, sadly put me in there, but don't worry. With 2024 coming to a wrap, I figured the best way to end things is by reading my most anticipated book of the year. And what book is that? Because today we are doing a review on Spin of Fate by A.A. Foro. Non-spoilers. 4 out of 5 stars. We are set in a world split between not exactly 4 kingdoms, but 4 levels. So how this world works, we have the upper levels where if you're born there and you have good deeds, that's basically where you want to be. But you also have the lower levels where you have people that were either born there or did bad deeds. So it just also depends on how your actions apply, because if you do good enough deeds, you can have the possibility of ascending. But if you do a bunch of bad things, you have the possibility of descending. Now we have 3 main characters. We have Aina, who is from one of the lower levels, but because some of her actions accidentally was good enough for her to ascend. The only thing is she's been trying to descend again so she can reunite with her mother, who basically pushed her out the moment she found out she could ascend. Then we have Arenal, who is an upper, and his family, his brother, his parents have all ascended to the top level, leaving him alone. And he really wants to, he's always been in his brother's shadow, wants to prove himself. While a member of the government of the uppers comes to him with a mission because there is a rebel group going around down below. And he's like, if you can spy on them and get enough information, I can help you ascend. So Arenal has a mission. Then we have Mason, who is a lower, but he comes from what's known as like the last free clan, because there is a king running around either making people join his army or he is just destroying everything. And so Mason, he is a member of the last free clan, and somehow things just happen to where our 3 characters all come together by joining the rebel group. And even though they have their very own agendas, things just happen in the book that just brings them all together, and we just are along for the ride. Now, with this book being my most anticipated read of the year, how do I think of the rating? I really wish I could give this 5 out of stars. But 4, because the first half of the book, this book is cut between 4 parts. The first half, I felt like because the characters already lived in this world, we were playing a catch-up game and figuring out, 1, how the levels worked. 2, because there is I guess you could say, a religious political government that's going around, and we also have mythology, history that are kind of tied together, which you would think is not going to be important, but it's very integral to the story. So I feel like part 1 through 2 is pretty much of a catch-up game, as well as when our characters do come together, we are trying to, I guess you could say, figure out how they all work together before putting them into this rebel group and they begin their training arc. So it's kind of like a slow lead up to where sometimes I would have to go back and try to remember things. Luckily, at the very back, people, just to let you know, there is a dictionary. So if there's some terms that you kind of get confused or forget, I found out that there is that, so I have to reference that kind of a bit. How I feel about this book, there were some mentions about it kind of being a little reminiscent of his Dark Materials, more specifically the first book, the Golden Compass, and that has to do with the government, especially with the upper levels, how that's like a religious group that's also tied into the politics, and how that kind of plays importantly to the character Arenal, because he was raised with those beliefs. So we do see him struggle with that. A little bit of Avatar, because we have in the magic system where the characters have to, like, basically I would say connect with the elements, but you also have like the influence of that world. But this gave me heavy early Naruto vibes. What do I mean by early? I mean back home, be at home at 8 o'clock to watch Toonami, and you got the first 2 arcs, the Mist Village and the Chunin exam, because we have a Team 7. As for the rest of the book, oh my god, what was going on, especially after we finished part 3 and start part 4, knowing that the end is coming near. I was like, ooh, we're gonna fix things, right? We can fix this situation. But how it ended, I was gasp. I really liked after we finished our training arc and we went on our first mission arc. After what happened, I was like, there better be something that happens to help fix all of this, because what happens in the end, people, I really can't wait for when Book 2 comes out, because after everything that happened, that's all I can say. What happens at the end just made the ride so great that I really wish I could give this 5 stars, but I have to be fair, because those first 2 parts that might confuse people or may put people offish. I get that. We're in a world that's already well established and we are the visitors and we are just going by the guidebook. I get that. But once you get past part 2 and you get to part 3 and 4, it was worth it. I loved it. I care for our characters. But part 1, part 2 made me realize either some people are like, oh, okay, part 2, I can see why y'all are being stubborn, y'all gotta work together, but part 3 and 4, what happened to our characters, I am invested now with what happens, because when Book 2 happens, it's gonna be bad. But that is as much as I can get into non-spoilers, okay? If y'all like what happened in Book 1 for His Dark Materials, The Golden Compass, how things were going around, or if you're kind of a fan of Avatar, or if you are a fan of early Naruto, pick this book up. Pick it up. That's all I can say. Fans of those 3 things, if y'all like those stuff, you will get that in this book. And that's as much as I can say about non-spoilers. Spin the Fate by A.A. Fora. 4 out of 5 stars. Bye, non-spoilers. Spoilers. So we actually open up with a prologue that establishes us in the world, in the level of Malin, actually. And so Malin is basically, it's bad, but it's not too bad because we got a lower one right there, but it's still in part of the lowers. And so out of the 4 levels that we have in this world, we mostly focus on Mayana, which is like basically right here, and Malin, which is right here. And if you can get confused, don't worry, we have maps, because I refer to these a lot. So right here we have the world map, which you can see is split between 4 worlds. We have, I believe, Paramos, Mayana, Malin, I think it's Narok, but we focus mostly on these 2 right here because that's where our characters are from. Aina and Mason are from Malin, and Aranel is from Mayana. And here are the maps of the cities and both of the levels, so you will sometimes refer back to these when they go traveling on locations. But we open up in the prologue with Aina with her mother. So her and her mother are kind of in hiding / on the run because we have a self-dubbed King of Malin. So his soldiers go around the countryside, either force recruiting people to join his army or just kill. Not really, because we also find out later in this world, part of the established rules is that 1, you can't really die. You're born and you're there, meaning you kind of wish for death, but it doesn't exactly happen. There's something else that does happen. I will actually get into that later. We're also introduced into the magic system as well in this prologue, which I admit was kind of jarring a little bit because I was just like, whoa, whiplash. Because Aina talks about her mother, how she's channeling, how she's kind of more connected to the earth, and she makes trinkets out of like rocks. So we have first what's called a kaisa, which is like a swirl on your head. Depending on which way it spins, depends on the deeds you do. So if it spins one way, it means it's really good. So you're basically up in the upper levels. If it spins the other way, it means you're bad, which is why you're in the lower levels. And so that's how I know she was born here, and so her kaisa was spinning a different way. And so the other one for how her mother is able to do these with these rocks is because we have these chitrons. I think I'm mispronouncing them, but it's basically what gives you connection to the elements, and then you can channel the elements to do what you want them to do. So very Avatar-esque, but I was also thinking, you know, ninjas, how they have their chakras and how they use those to do jutsus situation. So about Aina, her connection, her chitrons, again, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing this, they're not really good. She really doesn't have a great connection, so in doing so, she's very good with archery. So she's the one that kind of goes out hunting while her mother kind of scolds her about doing something stupid, but she still protects her and her daughter, and she's able to also make a force field to hide out their hideouts. But Aina also points out we kind of need food to live, because even though we can't die, we can still starve. So she does have traps placed around close to their hideout, and she sees a fox that's caught in a trap, and instead of killing it, she decides, you know, I'm just gonna let it live because its cub is here and the cub's not gonna really survive, and so she frees it. But in doing so, this small good deed leads to her experiencing a flash of white. Doesn't know what it is, it's very sudden, but she decides, you know, I gotta get back home. But with that, she kind of made some noise, or the aura of what happened, and there was something sleeping near the force field, and it woke up and it sees Aina and it attacks. The only problem is you can't look this thing in the eye. If not, you're in searing agony. Within 3 minutes, you'll experience like a lifetime of pain, and you don't want that. And so that thing is called Nagamore. And what is that? It's this thing on the cover. Also, just to let you know, these little figures on the map, those are basically like the planetary beasts. Think of them, I guess, like celestial creatures that split the world. So we're going to focus on the Nagamore, which is like the serpent peacock, and the Megaria, I think that's what it's called. It's like the winged dolphin. We will get mentioned about this. It's basically a leaf wolf. And this, just a hellish cockroach that no matter how much bug spray you have, it will not save you. We have this encounter with the Nagamore, and Aina's mother is able to try to fight it off because, again, she's basically earthbending. And we run to what's called a Turonic gate. And so this world is split by Turonic law, and it's what dictates the spin of your Kaiser. So basically, if you go to this gate and you can enter, great, you're good. If not, it's because, you know, the weight of your soul. Well, that's the only way that they can run. So basically, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place with the Nagamore chasing them. But Aina slips, and her foot goes through the gate, and her mother curses her as a, I guess, reverse spinner, basically, and she pushes her through the gate, and she fights off the Nagamore. But when Aina tries to come back out, her mother basically throws rocks up in front of the gate, basically sealing Aina on the other side, which is Mayana, and basically tells her never to return, while just like her begging her mother to let her come back. And that's the prologue. I didn't mention this in the non-spoilers because it kind of is a spoiler, but I think what might also make people just like, you know, tilt their heads is the fact that we actually have a time skip, and it's a year of Aina and Mayana trying to do bad deeds for her to descend. I actually would have liked to see, like, you know, what happened with her coming to Mayana, because she's basically like the first person from Malin to actually have her Kaiser reverse spin for her to ascend. So I would have liked to have seen, like, first of all, what it was like. I know it's pretty jarring, but then how did her life transition with her being in Mayana for that year, because we're at the end point where she keeps trying to do all these misdeeds so she can descend, and it's not really easy with her trying to steal, do other things, because people are just like, oh, you wanted it, here, go ahead, here, take some more. And she's like, I am trying to do bad things no matter how much I try, but it's not working. So I would actually like to have seen that yearly progression, how she got here, because what does she do? She hears that a princess of Mayana is about to ascend to Paramos, and they do this whole festival, and Ayana's like, idea, bet, if I ruin her ascension party, surely that will make me fall to Malin so I could go find my mother, because she's been worried sick for her mom for a whole year. So what does Aina do? She figures out which gate that they're going to for the princess. She waits, she sees their scars, but she's like, these scars really don't do anything. And she channels, again, she's not very good at channeling, but for something this small, she's able to do something. And she sends a rock to trip the princess and ruin the whole parade. And of course she's like, oh my god, I am not worthy, my soul is not light enough to ascend. And we're like, oh my god, for the princess to ascend, her light surely is as light as a feather. And Aina's like, waiting, why am I not descending? I literally did this to a princess, how come I'm not descending? But one of the guards sees her, they give chase, and she tries to escape, trying to channel, doesn't work, and this guard catches her, and they get into a kerfuffle, and he's like, you, and she's like, you, because we meet Aranel. So yes, Aranel is a guard, and this again, which I would like to see through the year gap, is because Aina and Aranel, and through connection, his older brother Samael, they know Aina because they were there with her when she did her first offense, and then later on, so she's like a repeat offender that they have to deal with over and over and over again. So I would have actually liked to have seen that interaction, because here they're already going through the motions. They're like, why would you do that? If you do so many bad deeds, your soul will be like weighted, and your kaiser will spin the other direction, and you will descend to Malin. And for Aranel, he just can't compute as to why Aina would do that, because Aranel has been raised in Mayana, this is where he was born, and they have this kind of religious idea to always be good, doing good things, because any thing that would be seen negative that would weigh heavily on your soul, it would be like very, not disgraceful, but very looked down upon. And if you get sent to Malin, that's like just like the worst thing possible. And they always think that, you know, if the people of Malin, you know, if they did good deeds, like if they could do good deeds, then they could have the possibility of ascending. Because look, Aina did, so surely if y'all worked hard enough, y'all can. Well, it just doesn't compute the fact that she wants to descend. Aranel is spending the last day with his older brother, Samael, because he is about to ascend to Paramos, meaning this is the only family member that Aranel has. And so through his POV, we see that Aranel feels like he's been under the shadow of his oh so perfect brother. And he has tried so hard to do so many good deeds to lighten his soul so he can reunite with his family, because his parents left. They really didn't come down to visit. And now he feels that Samael is going to be the same thing, and he's going to be left all alone. And with his brother ascending, Aranel is given another position in the guards, to where he gets his very first brief meeting that his brother would always do. So now he's kind of taking over. It's like, oh, the little brother's filling in for the older brother. So he's like, you know, still trying to like shake the shadow. And in doing so, he, through some members of Mayana who are government officials, as well as members from Paramos that comes down the preservation, the preservers, they are discussing, you know, some political things that are going on in the world. And that's where Aranel gets introduced to a rebel group called the Balancers. So the Balancers are a group that kind of believe in the equality of the people of the 4 levels, believing that they all should have an opportunity to either ascend or descend. And we're seeing a bunch of people from the upper levels joining the group to descend. And through that, we meet the preserver Cirium, who sees Aranel, knows so much about his family, and it's like, you know, you should really join your family. Like, they're so waiting for you. They're waiting for you to ascend. It's like, well, I'm trying to do as many good things as I can. He's like, don't worry, I got you. I can actually help you ascend. And he's like, how? I need you to spy on the Balancers, especially finding out where their leader, Senra, is. It's like, wait, you want me to descend? Don't worry. That terrible influence that you feel down there, you're doing it for a good thing. And because of that, Tirana law knows you're doing a good thing. So no matter how bad you stand there, your soul will still be light. You will still be good. Your Kaisa will not reverse spin. And I'm pretty sure if you do enough good things helping us, it can help you ascend. So we are dangling a carrot in front of Aranel. And of course, he wants to look good as well, proving that he can be better than his brother, while also following this, like, you know, I'm still doing a good thing, so no matter what, my soul might get lined up to ascend. So he has this idea that if he goes and spies on the Balancers, he can ascend to Paramos. And now we meet the last member of our group is Mason. Again, he is a member of Malin, but he's also a member of what's known as the last free clan, Conjalan. And so that's because a bunch of clans either were wanted to join Caldriv, who is the self-dubbed king of Malin, or they fought. And again, you can't really die. So if you're captured, you are sent to the ice dungeons, where you are tortured and tortured and tortured, and you cannot die And Mason, his clan, the Conjolan, are the last, and that means that they are like the last bit of resistance, little fleas that Cauldron wants to get rid of. So they are constantly hunted night and day. And it's just him, Chief Kana, and about 6 members left. So they are desperate. But the thing about Mason, he wants to do good, but because of the influence of Malin, how it affects their Chitrons and how it affects their channeling, things just go awry. And when he tries to do something good for a team member who has a lump, he's like, okay, I see this in a book that we found from a balancer hideout. If I can do this correctly, I can remove it. Basically shoot a little bit of electricity in there and just try to figure it out. But because of the influence of this world, it makes it very more destructive, and it hurts his team member, but he's fine. Again, you can't really die. And he just, maybe I can't do any good. So he's always been fighting, but he kind of, like, small part of him wants to do good, but it's just the environment that's around that's influencing. No matter how many times he tries, it just doesn't work out. And since him and his chief, Kana, are basically the only fighting bodies, everyone right now is either in a weakened state from injuries or from illness. They're like, okay, we are stuck in this location and we have culture of soldiers like sneaking around. Maybe we can try to build a tunnel. But his chief is like, you know, just watch my back because I'm gonna need to do most of the channeling because we don't want you to accidentally blow a hole, right? So Kana makes a tunnel to try to get under the soldiers, but it rains. I think it was acid, because even the weather here is like just trying to get everyone, and the tunnel breaks. And him, Mason, and Kana get separated, and they're fighting culture of soldiers. And we see that Mason kind of likes fighting. He gets that drive, but then again, he is a soldier of Conjolan, and he fights the culture of soldiers, and he disarms them. Nice word for that. And he just like wonders where Kana went, because again, he got separated, and he's like worried because he's the second in command. He's worried if his chief gets captured, what happens to Conjolan. So he goes looking for Kana. We jump back up to Aina. She's at the temple for her, you know, probation, and she's going around the temple, looking around. That's where we see the 4 planetary beasts, 4 universal beasts, and she's talking with one of the priests, Aro. And Aina does bring up a point that it's not very fair for Turonic law, how there's actually people who are just born into like the bad circumstances. Like children are literally born in Malin. They haven't done anything bad, but because they're born there, they are forced to stay there. And people up in Mayana really just like, you know, if they tried really hard. But she's like saying it's not really fair for those who didn't do anything wrong. And that's when Aro's face just changes. And it's Zenra, who is the leader of the Balancers. And she likes the spunk in Aina, and she recruits her because, again, Aina, she really doesn't care, but if she joins the Balancers, that means she has an opportunity to descend. And what has she been trying to do this whole entire year? She's been trying to descend to reunite with her mother. So, because she's been given this offer, she takes it. Aranel begins his mission by finding a Toronto gate and descends. So he has this thing, he descends, he's going to need to try to find the Balancers, try to get information, and meet up with Cerium once a week to relay information. Okay, good. Sounds like a good plan. Only that when he arrives in Malin, his channeling, it just goes kaput, because this is Aranel, the perfect guy at everything, just below his brother. But because of the environment that's in Malin, how it has the influence over his Chitrons, it's not good. He is bad. He is not good. The most thing that he tries to do, the most good things that he tries to do, it goes haywire. And what is that? Is because he comes across the spiked, evil monkeys that just chase him, taunts him, throws things at him, and if he gets hit by their spines, it will paralyze him. And so the thing, how the mythology that he was taught back up in Mayana was not to harm anything, just disarm. You don't want to hurt anyone, because if you hurt someone, it will hurt you. That's your soul. So he is just trying to disarm these monkeys, and when he channels the influence of this world, backfires and it caused death. And Arenal just like has like a mental moment, like, oh my god, I did not mean for that to happen. I'm sorry, so sorry. But the monkeys, they're like, vengeance! And they attack, and Arenal's like, I don't know what to do because he doesn't want to hurt them. And then Maizen shows up and he kills the monkeys, and then he takes Arenal as prisoner because he's like, I'm a balancer, don't hurt me. And then Maizen's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna take you as prisoner because I need your people's medicine. So that's how Maizen and Arenal meet. And after setting up camp, and Arenal is just like trying to talk with Maizen, and Maizen's like, I don't like you at all, stop talking. One of his traps go off, and it's Aina, and they kind of tussle, and he's like, for an upsider, you're very good at fighting. And then Arenal sees her, and he's like, you? And Ina's like, you? And like, what's going on here? She's like, I joined the Balancers to descend and find my mom, and what are you doing here? He's like, you inspired me. And Maizen's like, I just want the medicine. So Naruto, we have our team 7. We have our Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura. And the thing is about this, those positions keep changing between the 3, and I was here for it. We have a gist of where the hideout for the Balancers are. So Maizen actually, to get a better vantage point, and she also see where Cauldron soldiers are because they are still kind of in a hot spot. He takes Arenal and Aina up a mountain, telling them, be careful with your channeling because we don't want this volcano to go kablooey. So Maizen, if he doesn't use a lot of his channeling, he's pretty good actually. Arenal, he's taking baby steps because he's kind of scarred for what he did with the monkeys. But still, baby steps is better. And then they see Aina, whose channeling is sometimes always referred to as worse than the toddlers. And so Arenal kind of has to help her, and she's like, I can do it myself. She's like, you're struggling, let me help you. And they get up to the top of the volcano, they get their vantage point, they look around, and Cauldron soldiers sees them. And they have to fight, which Maizen and Aina are a really good team. Maizen with his up and close swordsmanship, and Aina actually being able to cover him with her arrows. Again, they make actually a really good team for long range and close range. It's just Arenal, they're both yelling at him to fight because he's just disarming and dancing around. He even kind of has his weapon sheathed in a way to not cause real harm. Like, do something. It's like, I don't want to hurt them. They are going to kill you. It's like, but don't but us, just help fight. Arenal, for me, I'm like, I love you, baby boy, I get it, but sometimes violence calls for violence. But someone channels the earth, and I think it was Arenal, to try to help. Again, backfires. I think it was for like a shield, I think. And it does take out the soldiers, but it also activates the volcano. And this is where we kind of learn that, you know, the people in this world can't die, so they just like linger in anguish. But there is a way to die that's like the worst thing possible, and it's called erasure. Meaning if something is just so bad and your soul just can't handle it, it just goes, and because the energy from that, from your soul, just obliterates your body. And that is what Maizen fears for his clansmen, because as the lava is heading down the hill, taking out the soldiers, and they're riding a makeshift boat made out of earth, the lava kind of goes in the direction to where his clansmen are, and he knows that if they don't get out, they're going to be stuck in that lava, just burning, and he fears that they might not be able to wait that long and just have erasures. So after they make it to safety, Maizen kind of just like erases his colors, like he has like colors right here, and he figures like, I am the last of the Conjolan, and he just continues on to with Aina and Arenal to the Balancers group. So we have our team 7, but this is where we also kind of just like see where their loyalties, not really, but their agendas are. We end up in Akarza, which is the hideout, and Senra is there to greet the three. She recruited Aina. She looks at Eren and is like, I was inspired by Aina, so that's why I came down. And she sees Mason's like, basically, I can offer you a place, a purpose, not family, but a group to fight with. And he's like, I really have nowhere to go right now. So they begin their balance their training, but they also find out they can't really leave until they finish their training. And this is where we meet this other three group, where I would like to call the Sani. So we have Team 7 and we have the Sani. The Sani, they were uppers. Some of them were from Mayana, and one was actually getting ready to ascend to Pyramus. That was Hiravel. He is basically a priest. We have Remy, who was just a person from Mayana. And then we have Tarly, who is actually a cousin from Arenal. She's like, what are you doing here, Ron? It's like, what are you doing here? So these are our three Sani, and they will be teaching our Team 7 because, again, they can't leave until they get the A-OK. And oh my god, I love this training arc so much. So this is where we actually get a nice little slowdown to see how the group works together as a team, which is, they're all basically oil and water at this point, because first lesson, basically standing on a pole on the water. Aina, we see her training levels need improvement. Arenal and Maizen are pretty good, but when it comes to like bickering with one another, they're just basically kicking each other in the water. It's basically that whole moment where Kakashi was teaching them how to focus their chakras to either climb up on a tree or to walk on water. So this is what we get with them. So when we have these moments where they're learning to train how to channel different ways, I loved it. We kind of get a little play-by-play by the week because we know that Arenal has to rendezvous with Serum to give his reports, and through that we just like see how Aina is struggling. The only way how Arenal and Maizen can really talk is through trying to best one another in combat, which Arenal still has that struggle of delivering the final blow, so that usually gives Maizen the upper hand because, again, Maizen was trained to deliver that final blow, and it's butt heads with their beliefs of Arenal and Maizen. But also Arenal knows the fact that Senra, whenever she is checking in on them, she is paying more attention to Aina, believing that maybe she's just showing pity for her because, again, her channeling isn't so good. Maizen, because he kind of is concerned about whenever he channels, it always backfires. So he also finds out that through Haravel that there is ways to heal people, because they have books, more books on the ways how to do herbology, and he kind of like, he begins his lessons on that because he's a little nervous about trying to heal people because of what happened last time. If y'all could hear that, that was thunder. And so he just begins learning how to properly do this. So it's a way, saves energy, and if they have like the items around them, he can learn that to help the team members. And this is where, when Arenal gets his lessons on what's going on in Malin, because they do have patrol, and that's when he tells them about Cauldrift. And again, Arenal doesn't really know that much because no one's coming down from Mayana to do record keeping. And he learns about, this man named Cauldrift, who basically is trying to recruit clans. If not, he's just going around racing the countryside, and that the Kanjalan basically were like last free clan to fight against Cauldrift. We also get a moment during the patrol, like there's a shield around Akarza, and because of that, Cauldrift soldiers get an idea of where the location of the HQ is, but they don't really know. And because of that, Arenal and Maizen overhear soldiers talking, so we kind of believe it's just soldier talk. But they do mention about like an upcoming war, which Maizen tells Arenal it's always like this. And Malin, there's always like, the thirst for war, for fighting. It's kind of like the way of life down here. But there's like a joke kind of about destroying Tyrannic law, and they're like, it's not gonna happen. The Tyrannos, they're fine. We've had some kids try to do it just to pass the time. It's not gonna work. This is just talk. But the thing is, this keeps circulating amongst the soldiers. So I'm thinking, if it's one time, nothing to worry about. But the fact that when we meet other soldiers that keep bringing it up, it's like, maybe we should listen to what the grunts of the military are saying, because that could possibly mean something. From the meetings that Arenal had with Sirium, who's like, great work, but we kind of need more information. And he mentions that Senra shows kind of favoritism to Aina. He's like, okay, maybe if you can't really get close to Sarah, you can get close to Ina and figure things out and see if she can give you information, which is Arenal kind of tries to do. He's not very subtle about it. He's very like eager. He's not trying to cover his tracks. And in doing so, it's because Ina kind of tries to sneak out, tries to find out where her mother is, and Arenal does see Ina. He kind of brings her back, but he's also like, you know, trying to talk, like tries to figure out things about Ina. She's like, okay, you're asking me this, and then he also brings up things like, you know, so what's Sandra talking about? It's like, Sandra, well, she's trying to help me and all that stuff. So again, he's not very being subtle about it. He's kind of being up there, but he's also thinking, I'm being very cautious. Like, no, dude, we know you're trying to get information about Sandra. And Mycen sees us like, yeah, Sandra's actually here. She went to a village to check out what's going on. And so Arenal and Ina go see Sandra, and she's with a child named Umi, and she's like, yeah, this child who's carrying around this boot with stick people. She's a little girl. She's like, this is the home for stick people. She's like, yeah, we're just gonna watch her here, and then we're gonna go send her to a village protected by balancers. And that's the first time Arenal actually gets a moment. It's like, you know, this little girl, this little toddler actually is very sweet. So what actually caused her to end up in Mullen? And then that's when Ina gets like a moment like that, and she's like, she was born here. That's the only thing that happened to her. She was just born at the wrong place. And that's when Arenal, we see in his POV, his thinking's like slowly starting to shift, because he keeps reciting, you know, the doctrine about Toranic law, and just like, you know, basically how your Kaiser spins, the deeds that you do. Hopefully I can help y'all lighten y'all's souls, because I'm worried about your souls, which Mycen and Ina, like, whatever. That's when we start seeing in these POVs how it's starting to affect Arenal, and we're starting to see him doubt. And this doubt comes into the form when he's doing a rendezvous with Serum, and he always knows that this guy is always drinking from a flask, and he kind of drops some droplets. He's like, you know, wash this away. And Arenal's like, can I have a sip of that? Because he gets a little suspicious. And he's like, oh no, this is like, you know, to keep me young and youthful. Well, very good on Arenal's part, because if I saw that, I'd be like, water is water. Don't ask me the difference. There are these springs under Incarza that they go to just like, you know, chill, rejuvenate, just relax. And Arenal realized, like, you know, this water is the same that the guy had, Serum, had in his flask. It's like, maybe he just like found out about the springs and he just didn't want to tell me about it, because the springs are used for healing. So again, it might be for youth, it might not, but it's like one of those things where one little secret that Serum hid is starting to open a crack in Arenal. And tensions kind of rise a little bit, because Arenal and Mycen are just like, you know, having a moment, just talking with each other, until Mycen points out the facts, like, yeah, I know you're sneaking out. He's like, wait, what? It's like, don't worry, I know you're not going to do something stupid, because you're always so worried about your soul. But if you do, it better not bring harm to Incarza, because like, this is the first time I actually have a place to sleep. And it's like, don't worry, I won't tell anyone. And Arenal doesn't take that into account, the fact that he's being watched now, because Mycen does follow him to one of his rendezvous points. But the thing is, instead of Serum showing up, it's Samael who intercepted the little stone that Arenal uses to communicate with Serum. And so this was supposed to be a good reunion, because Arenal actually missed seeing his brother, and his brother looked genuinely happy to see him. But then he's like, yeah, this is dangerous. Stop, this isn't good for your soul. And Arenal takes this the wrong way, and he starts kind of biting back at Samael. What I mean by that is, like, he keeps like saying, you know, you're always the good one, you're the perfect one, you're just mad and jealous that Serum actually came to me to do this very important mission. And Samael is trying to, I guess, talk with reason, but also talking down on his brother Arenal. And Mycen's like, okay, I'm gathering some information between these two. And what he does is confirm it when he goes back to Incarza, and he gets information from Tarly, who's like, again, the cousin. She's like, oh, I remember when he was a kid, he always wanted to be a preserver. It's like, hey, I know, what's the preservers? Like, they're a bunch of uppy people who run the government, and they just like believe in Toranic law and how it judges everything. It's like, So Mycen's getting information. It's like, do I really trust Aranel with what's going on. Again, he doesn't tell Senra about this. And speaking of Senra, she believes that it's time to up their training, meaning teach them a technique that Aranel's like, that was made illegal because it goes against everything, and that is projection, meaning the soul losing the body, which will feel very, very wrong because again, we're connected through the Chitrons and with the channeling with the elements around, basically the world. And if you do project, that also could save you because it's a good technique to learn if you're being tortured, to separate your body and your soul. So your soul is okay from not being as harmed, but you're also being influenced from Malin, which is not very good influence because how we see how the channeling has happened. But it's still a good tool to have up your sleeve. Again, we found out that the preservers outlawed this, but Senra teaches them, and the first one to pick it up is Aina. Yay! I thought this was going to be a very heartfelt moment because after Aina learns how to project, Aranel does greet her, and he's like, you know, we're all having a bonfire dinner situation, and I wanted to invite you. He's like, sure. But he kind of oversteps his boundaries because he always knows that Aina had a bag full of broken figurines. The figurines that her mother always made for her, and they broke when she crossed over into Mayana escaping the Nagamore. And so I thought this was like a good thing of, you know, a good gesture, but it turned out Aranel kind of just also wanted to try to weasel some tips, try how to do a good projection. He fixed the figures, but in doing so he kind of erased all traces of Aina's mother, and so she was angry, but she reeled it in and went to go to the dinner. But Aranel kind of got the hints that his good gesture kind of backfired. But after some more training, he does learn to project, and like, you know, people see his body just chilling, like, oh my god, he finally learned how to do that. But because he doesn't want to go back into his body just yet, he manages to make his soul look around, and that's where we learn something suspicious. And that's because, again, there's a barrier around Incarza that's set up by Senra, but he also feels a second barrier. And that's kind of closer to where the lake is that feeds the pool into the healing springs. But he can't figure out why there might be a second barrier, so he returns back to his body with those questions. When we have our next rendezvous with Cirium, we could start seeing Aranel's frustration because, again, he's starting to think. And one of those is that Cirium reports that there's erasures going around, as well as the fact that every time the preservers have a meeting, balancers have their missions. They go out to missions. So he's thinking something shady is going on, but after spending time with Senra, Aranel's like, you know, the balancers are trying to help the people of Malin because, again, there's Cauldron soldiers are going around attacking villages. But Cirium's like, Cauldron, he's just doing whatever. So you really don't have to focus. Like, so about these techniques, like, good that you're learning them, just don't let them get in the way of hurting your soul. And that's when Aranel actually thinks maybe the preservers could learn an illegal technique or two to help. And we're starting to see him starting to turn away to Cirium. So it's like, ooh, tension. But he will keep an eye out on the erasures because he does believe that they're not tied to Senra, but they might be tied to Cauldron, because again, we're getting news that his soldiers are running around attacking villages because Senra are having, you know, refugees going to these balancer hideouts for the villagers. And we hear that, you know, there's other balancers there guarding the villages. So we think that the erasures has to do with Cauldron and what he's doing. So like, why is he trying to unite all of Malin under him? Because if he does, that means no one's gonna have anything to fight. And we see how important fighting is because that's just basically the way of life. But at the end of the day, we do a farewell party because Harvel, Remy, and Tara-Lee are being sent out on mission. So Arsani are leaving to the villages to help balancers. Through our training, our Team 7 has to stay back because they are still learning. Maisen's still having difficulty projecting. He's still doing his sparring matches with Aranel. Aranel's still practicing on his stuff. Aina, she is still trying to get the hang of things, but we find out through talking with Senra that her Kai'Sa actually might kind of have like a chip in there, and so that's kind of why she isn't able to properly connect with the Chitrons and channel. But that also brings out the fact that she's actually been fighting her way to do something that comes natural as breathing to everyone, meaning that she actually is getting stronger by her own will and volition. So you know, I'm gonna be Hokage one day situation, which Senra takes very keenly to. She shows more attention to Aina, also promising, you know, if we can heal your Kai'Sa, we can look into that. But right now, just keep working on your hard work. So when this starts happening, I'm starting to, okay, you're starting to show a little too much attention to Aina, making my skin starting to crawl. And that is never a good thing. Believing that they're ready to go outside just once to a Balancer village, Senra takes Team 7 to a place that they kind of need more healers. And through Mycen, he kind of also instructs the 3 because Senra leaves them in charge of helping with a healing tent. Mycen instructs Aina and Arinelle, don't do any channeling because Arinelle said if we were in Mayana, that's all we would have to do to help with the healings. Like, that's not going to work here. So get the healing equipment and follow me. And through that, we get up in front with children that are affected by Cauldron of Soldiers. And this is a moment where Arinelle has like another eye-opening situation, because again, he met Umi one time, but now he's up in front of children that are refugees because we find out that there's a war zone going out. These are children just being affected, like their parents were taken by Cauldron of Soldiers. They really don't have any use for the children, so they're forcing the parents to either join the army or being sent to the ice dungeons to be tortured. And Arinelle's just like, these children did nothing. They should like have an opportunity to just live, be children, have possibly ascend. But this is like one of the moments where Arinelle just like, maybe tyrannic law is slightly flawed. Maybe what Aina has been saying all along, because she keeps talking about how tyrannic law is just not fair, because it just, for those who are already in a bad enough situation, it's just not fair to them. So he's starting to have those moments and thinking maybe Aina's correct. Well, while they're treating the kids, because kids, you know, they like to talk. They're talking about how when they're on the run, there's this old lady that's just throwing rocks left and right, this cranky old lady. And Aina's like, wait, that's my mom. And they're talking about the Weepers that are revolting against Cauldron Soldiers. And Kai's like, what about them? He's like, no, they have these, like, they look, they're blue crying. Again, that's thunder if y'all can hear that. And he's like, oh my god, the Conjalan. Meaning the Conjalan that were still alive, his clanmates that probably survived the lava attack, they broke out of the prison. And who could do that? Chief Kana, meaning Aina's mom is still around and kicking butt, and the Conjalan are now fighting Cauldron Soldiers in the war zone that's just across the river. So you know what that means. Mason sneaks out, which Arinelle thinks, oh, he's going after Aina because I saw her sneaking out too. And he's like, you know, these two are gonna get themselves killed, so I'm just gonna make sure Arinelle gets Aina, brings her back to the Balancer village so I can go reunite with my clan, because that's what happens. Aina goes to the battlefield, sees the Conjalan fighting Cauldron Soldiers, and you know what they have on their side that I didn't know could fly, and I wish I did not know can fly, was what she believes, which I believed as well as correct. Chief Kana flew into battle on a Nagamore. These things can fly, and she was shooting lightning down with the Nagamore, spinning stuff down, as well as looking and paralyzing the enemy. Oh my god! Death from above! Oh, by the way, the Nagamore accidentally hit a cliff that Aina was on. She fell behind the enemy line, tried to crawl her way back, didn't work, and she got mistaken as a Conjalan clansman. She was not. She tried to fight them off. But guess who came to her help? Is Arinelle and Mason. And they tried to fight their way out. These people, Team 7, they are in sync. They even tell Arinelle, hey, you're gonna need to do something. Like, don't worry. I know how to disarm because they did learn how disarming techniques. It's like, I can back y'all up because they're going for the kill things, but he's not gonna be a loose end like how they were last time when they first fought together, where they're still trying to find their rhythm. They have the rhythm. They're actually fighting Cauldre's soldiers. Only problem is, it's flashy, it's shiny, and the soldiers are attracted to it like a flock of moths. And no matter how many times they fight them, it just keeps going on, and it's an endurance battle, and they are running out of strength. And out of desperation, Arenal tries to channel, which again backfires. It backfires. And instead, they form a crater that they fall in, and they're trapped. And Maizen, he used up a lot of his energy. Aina, she doesn't have her bow. It broke. It broke. And Maizen gave her the sword that he has that claims him as the second in command of the Khanjalan. But she is tired. Arenal is tired. He tries to help, but that makes a pit. They're stuck in the pit. And what happens? Khanjalan soldiers rush in, and they are captured. I can't believe I'm about to say we were lucky, but we were luckily captured and taken to Cauldre's fortress instead of the ice dungeons, because the soldiers, who are other clansmen that are enemies of Khanjalan, they recognize the sword that Aina was wielding, but they look at the scabbard like, oh, so that sword actually believes to Maizen, who they're like, you know, for the second in command, we can use you for a trade between you and your foolish leader, Kana. So they are political prisoners. Luckily, they leave Arenal and Aina alone. But right now, their kaisas have, you know, daggers in them, and that's what prevents them from using their Chitrons to channel. But because they were practicing projecting, that's what the projecting trainings was for, in case situations like this happen. And who's good right now? It's Aina. So she's like, okay, I can't find Senra, but Torali, who was at the Balancer village that they were at previously, I can get a message to her, and hopefully she can get Senra to rescue us. So that's what Aina does. She projects, takes her a while, comes back. She's like, okay, we just have to wait it out. Senra is on her way. It's like, okay, cool. Maizen, what about your leader, Kana? She's like, oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure she knows this is a trap, and if I know her, she's going to bring all of Khanjalan here to fight and free us. Like, okay, we have 2 rescue parties coming. And when the first one shows up, the channeling, the Chitrons that start turning the dungeon walls into basically obsidian mirrors, it feels dark. It feels menacing. It feels like hatred. It feels wrong. And the thing is, everyone's like, is this good? Is this bad? It's like, this is Chief's energy, but it feels wrong. Meaning, things happened while Maizen was away, and Chief Kana did things that I guess starting to weigh heavier on her soul, meaning she has a likely chance of descending to Narax. But either way, she turns the whole fortress basically into a giant mirror, and the Nagamort looks in there, and basically half of the soldiers in Cauldre's fortress are stunned, and that gives Khanjalan enough time to raid the place, free the prisoners. Maizen, Aina, and Arenal escape. They manage to actually get through the whole melee. The same time the Nagamort comes in, attacking everything, and like, yeah, that's the chief, great. What's going on? And then they see Torali show up with another balancer. Like, yeah, Senra ran in there to rescue y'all. It's like, where is she? She's down there. She's literally running into battle. She kind of attacks both sides because she doesn't know who's the allies. And right now the balancers whole thing, we're not to pick sides. But because we're in a difficult situation, she kind of hits both people. And Kana does not take that lightly, so she turns to the Nagamort and she attacks. Senra attacks, puts a giant earth helmet on the Nagamort, and after that, it is 2 highly skilled channelers fighting to where both sides are like, I'm just gonna exit this way. You're good, you're good. These are 2 powerful channelers, okay, people? These are 2 powerful channelers right now, I would say in all of Malin, and they are fighting each other. The only problem is Mason is there, and he's like amazed, but he notices Ina, runs up to Kana, and is crying for her to stop. And that's because when I saw that, I was like, oh no! Chief Kana is Ina's mom. But that gets Senra to stop fighting. But if you thought Ina's mom was cold to her in the prologue, she's like, you stupid girl, what are you doing here? I never wanted you to come back. You're just a waste and a mouth for me to feed, something to always drag me down. She's verbally attacking Ina, gives her a few slaps, insults her, tells her you should have stayed where you belonged in Mayana. And it's like, you're no daughter of mine. It's trying to push Ina away from her as much and tells Senra just to take her. And Maizen leaves with Kana and Conjola as they retreat. And that's, again, where Maizen asks Kana, like, I didn't know you had a daughter. How are you able to tame this Nagamore? And she's like, you know, there are things that you don't want to know. And that's when you realize, like, there's a possibility for her to descend. But as the last order that she gives Kaizen is to go back to the Balancers to protect Ina. She doesn't tell Ina right up that she cares unless her. She's just being very mean to her to try to break that connection with Ina, so Ina doesn't look back and come back for her, that she could just be somewhere safe. And that's how Kana believed that's the best way to tell her daughter, is just to be mean to her and to make it seem like I am not worth the time to come back and look for. But in doing so, she cares for Maizen as well, and just like, protect my daughter and keep her safe, which he does return to the Balancers. And Aranel, that bright happiness about him, is like, why did you come back? He's like, loyalty. And Aranel is actually so happy that Maizen came back. Like, oh no, we're bonding. Ina's going through a roughie, and Senra's there, you know, just talking with her. And in a way, Ina just like now believes like she no longer has a mother. She sees Senra as like an adult leader figure. And after doing some research, she believes that because Ina saw a white flash when her Kaisa reversed its spin, that is how Senra talks about Tyrannic Law, and the fact that when her Kaisa stopped spinning, she was sent to basically a place called the Universal Void, where Tyrannic Law does not apply, meaning it's just an open slate. Now, while Senra is talking about this, she believes like, you know, if we can do that, we can find a way to be able to change the rule of things. Now, the thing about Senra, about the Balancers, it was to help the people of Malin, give them medicine, give them food, give them safety, and because of what Kaldrev's army is like doing, making life almost unbearable for the people. And the Balancers, they're trying to do good things to help the people, and vice versa, that should help with their flow, their spin of their Kaisa, making their souls a little bit lighter, possibly giving them the ability to ascend, like Ina and that little chip in her Kaisa. That's how she was able to see this universal void, and that also, and that split second, that long split second, also got her Kaisa to change the flow. So if we can find a way how to replicate that, we have the opportunity to go against the preservation and change the flow of things. Try to help get people in this way to change their Kaisas and get them to ascend. While Senra is talking about this, she sounds a little too happy, and I can feel something slithering around. And I do. The way how she's happy about this, and how she keeps checking Ina's Kaisa, my skin is crawling more than usual, and usually that's a good time to listen to maybe we need to run away. And just FYI, feeling that she needs a clean break from her mother, I'm just like throwing this. Ina destroys her figurines, cutting off like the last connection she has to her mom. Secrets are still being spilled because Senra knows about Aranel's meetings with Sirion, because again, she asked, like, how was your meeting? And he's like, did Maizen tell you? He's like, Maizen knew? No, I just knew because I didn't recruit you, and it's very suspicious. And basically, the preservation have nothing on me that they don't already know. And so Aranel already getting frustrated with what's going on because he feels Cerium holding things back. He's starting to doubt the way that the preservation does things. He thinks that Taronic laws should start maybe be tweaked to help the young, especially the children, to possibly ascend. And that thing about the flask, because Cerium stopped bringing that around with him, he knows that the waters are the same as what's in the spring. So in doing so, secrets are being spilt, Senra tells him what's in the water, and it's diluted blood from the Megaria. So the winged dolphins, very important creatures, very revered creatures, because these are basically based off of the 4 creatures that split the universe in 4. So each one, the grass wolf, the winged dolphin, the peacock snake, and the hellish cockroach. The winged dolphin, its animal small counterparts, very loving creatures. If you're able to bond with one, you are the most benevolent person. I hope that's the right word. But you're the best of the best. You are the most kindest soul. Senra had a Megaria, and she said it was a gift. So she has been using the blood of a Megaria in diluted forms to put in the water for healing properties. And of course, Aranel is appalled by that. It's like, well, what do you think some of the preservation do? And that's what the guy has been drinking. Cerium has been drinking diluted water of the Megaria blood. And these are like one of the few secrets that Senra tells him about. And she's like, so now I'm gonna let you think about it. It's like, what do you mean? Choose your loyalties. And another thing that we find out about the Megaria blood that also adds to these secrets, where Aranel's gonna need to think very carefully, is if you take it in higher quantities in a more pure form, it can possibly increase your spin for your Kai'Sa, because that's the thing for also Ascension, also how the spins. So, okay, a good way how to break down this magic system, how your Kai'Sa spins, the way it rotates. So if you're in, say, Malin, and how it spins, how it keeps you there, but if it slows down, you go down to Narog. But the other way, if it spins faster than Nichu and Mayana, you're in Paramos. And the more non-diluted blood of the Megara can change that, can make it spin faster. So first of all, Cerium has been drinking that, meaning that slightly diluted form, he's been keeping his spin going fast to keep him in Paramos. So that's fun to think about, the fact that even the preservation even does that. Again, it's a wild secret, and the fact that Senra is telling Aranel this, that means he has now been burdened with this great information that could put him in danger. So again, test of loyalties. Well, that test comes when he's talking with Mason, just talking, and he finds out that Mason's actually there just to protect Anya, because he's like, loyalty, and he came back, and there's just been this slight rift between him and Ina and Mason, because Mason's teaching her more of Kinjalin, and Aranel's like feeling a little bit left out. And now that he found out Mason just came back on orders of his chief, he basically asked, but what about me? It's like this bond that these three have actually been forming. They actually formed this Team 7. They actually been watching each other's back. They've been through training. They've been through basically teammate shenanigans by picking on one another, forming bonds, getting to like know a little bit what makes the other tick. They formed a unit. They formed Team 7. So when this monkey threw a wrench in these whole plans, with them being captured by Kaldrev, and Kana coming in, saving them, and then finding out Kana is Ina's mother, it just start chipping away at this bond that these three made. And that when Arenal just finds out that Mason just came back for Ina based off a order, he feels a little heartbroken. It's like, I thought we were a team, so what about me? And before Mason's like able to like compute this, the barriers around Incarza breaks. It breaks, and Cauldrev's soldiers come in. And it is a moment of mayhem because it's just Ina don't know where she is, don't know where Senra is. Arenal and Mason, they are fighting their best stuff. They're trying to defend, but it's just two of them against like a whole army that's flooding in, and then they're losing strength, and all of they have to run away. Ina, they find where Ina is. She's providing cover with a new boat. She's giving them a moment to escape because Arenal does get hurt. Mason is using too much of his power. But what happens? The crater, something happens. The crater, right? It explodes, implodes. I don't know what which one it is, but it goes kablooey. And Mason and Arenal, they're okay, but they see Senra leaving with an unconscious Ina. And of course, Mason is upset about, you know, traitor, teamwork. What was all that about? Well, what happens? Kanjala is in the area. They come in to attack Cauldrev. The teammates that we met in the beginning with Mason, they're alive. They're okay. Great. They see Arenal. They like, we can either hurt him or take him hostage because he can either be, he's an upper. We don't know if we can trust him. Mason draws his sword to protect Arenal. He defends Arenal. He puts his life on the line for Arenal. The teamwork. The teamwork. Well, yeah, of course, there's more soldiers for Cauldrev. They're pushing Kanjala back. And Arenal and Mason get separated, but it's easy to spot out Arenal because you see him running in the direction of the Torana gate. And Mason feels so betrayed. What was that about? Teamwork. So our team is now separated. We don't know what's going on. Incarza has been razed. Everything about the Balancers now is gone. We don't know where Senra Ina is. Arenal ascended. Mason went back to Kanjala, and everything that we have worked for to this point is destroyed. And we still have more of the book to go. Side tangent. I like snakes. The animals. I think they're cute. I think they're adorable. I know some snakes can be assholes, but I like snakes. So when someone is insulting the name of a snake, I'm like, feed them to the sharks. Because Ina wakes up in a boat with Senra, who's muttering about Kyrian, which I'm like, suspicious. But when Ina realizes that Arenal and Hyacinth aren't around, Senra starts turning Ina against the two, saying Arenal ascended 3 days ago, and Mason, he returned to Kanjala, so it's only us two now. Which Ina realizes, wait, I've been out for 3 days, and it's like, have you been drugging me? It's like, yeah, but it's for your own safety, because look, we got sharks around here, so be quiet. There's like saberfin sharks that have, if you harness their fins, you can make sharp blades. But either way, Senra is talking about how she could not lose Ina. The moment she started obsessing about Ina's safety, health, and the flow of her Kaisa, that's when my skin started crawling. And now here it is, and she's using sweet words to not only turn Ina against Arenal and Mason, but using words like saying, like, you know, how my time as the Balancer leader is over, not really caring what's happening to the villages, and not the possibility of what happened to her people that are out on the field. She's like saying, the Balancers are over, more than likely they'll ascend and go back to their happy place. She is using sweet honey words. Oh, she's using snake-like behavior, and I feel like this is an insult to snakes, because the moment she started doing this, the moment I started feeling my skin crawl, her slippery self trying to start making Aina more dependent on her. I was like, this is not good. Senra, I kind of believe in what you're trying to do, but the thing is, she is starting to use those sweet honey words in our ears, and that is usually when a leader feels like you're very much enthralled in their persona. And that's when I was like, oh no, this is not good. This is not cool. Very insulting to the nature of snakes that I wanted to throw you into the water. And then we realized where this boat is going, and that's when I felt physically sick. I read this chapter, I had a mental breakdown, and I was like, if this ends in a cliffhanger that breaks me, things will not be good. Because she keeps talking about we are close, we are so close to fixing things, and some keeps going back to the universal void and the fact that Aina might be key in how to access it. And where do we end up? We end up near a Tirana gate, a black one. That's the entrance, the only entrance from what we learned through the stories of Mice and when he was talking about the stories of Conjolan. This Tirana gates leads to Nakara, the fourth lowest hellish level in this universe. And someone steps out. This is not good. I literally felt my body just go, because I was like, oh no, this is not good. This is not good. I swear, people, after this, I was like, please let there be something good. Please let there be something good. Please something be good. Because after that, I was like a little flabbergasted that Arinelle did go back to Mayana. I was like, you literally, after what you talked about with Mice and about them being a team, what about me? I thought we were into this together. I thought we could be like, you know, friends, family kind of situation. He went back to Mayana. But then again, I thought he went back for materials, for supplies, because he got his stuff, he got everything. But then he realized, you know, the balancers are gone. Incarza is gone. I don't know where Aina is. Mice more than likely went back to Conjolan. He had a moment of doubt. Okay, I get that. I get that. I get that. But then we have a talk. Syriam. We get that there is a faction in Pyrimos and the preservation group that Syriam is part of that has to do with that flask. That has to do with the Megara blood. And he does confirm that they do drink it to keep ourselves up there. But it's also to prevent people from going down. He's like, why? He's like, because of the information we contain. So it goes back to how if you're part of the upper echelon of the elite, in this case, the preservation, you are privy to certain information that has been kind of twisted to keep the lower people in line. And that is with the, first of all, Universal Void, the fact that up in Pyrimos they have the only gate that enters it because the preservation destroyed the gates. And how do you do that? Because we have the Tirana gates and Tiranic law. One and the same, right? Tiranic law deems you whether you can go up or down, and the gates allow you to go through. Whew. Well, we find out that they're two separate entities. And it goes back to how the world started out when it was all one big whole. The way how your soul spins, Tiranic law. Been there, always been there. That's all it does. It just judges your spin. Whether it's good or it's bad. What's revealed is that the Tirana gates separating the worlds aren't Tiranic law. They are just shields that were deemed who can enter and who cannot. And the preservation preserves that status quo. And in the Universal Void, when the 4 planetary creatures divided the world, that's where they put their energy, to keep the separation. And in doing so, each creature is slumbering in each world. And that is what Senra wants to disrupt, because she tried to get to the gate that leads to the universal void that's in Paramos. People knew about that. They made sure she couldn't, and that's why they believe the erasures are happening. They believe it's tied to Senra trying to do that. But again, Aranel, Cauldriff, he's like, well, it could be Cauldriff because he keeps talking about, his soldiers keep talking about breaking Turonic law, which in this point we find out it doesn't mean that. They're talking about the Turonic gates, meaning the shields to come into Mayana and wreak havoc, get the war Cauldriff promised his people. And again, Sarah thinks, no, it's never going to happen. The problem we have is Senra. But you know what, Aranel, because you did such a good job for your mission, we feel like you don't need to keep doing it anymore. And here, what does Cirium do? He gives him the flask with the Megara blood in it to say, you've done a great job. I know your parents and brother are waiting for you. They are waiting for you for this very moment. In other words, to ascend, because now Aranel knows too much. So they want to keep an eye on him. And he's like, let my family know I will see them tomorrow night. And he books it, which I was like, thank God, Aranel, thank God. Because all these times he has been down. He calls out Cirium, actually. He says, I quit. And he talks about, you know, how Turonic law is not fair to the young and the innocent. And he's like, maybe we could tweak it if we have access to that. But again, Cirium is not doing that. He's starting to realize the preservation are controlling everything, preventing anyone from properly ascending. And this final straw of them trying to control Aranel to get him to ascend, just to keep an eye on him, he's like, I gotta go down. I gotta warn Mycen and see what's going on with Aina, which he does. Thank God he does go back underground. He does go back to Mullen, not underground. He goes back to down below, to Mullen, where Mycen is looking for Aina, because Kana was not happy about, first of all, him drawing a sword, another clansman. Mycen is a little sad what happened to Inkarsa, because again, this is like the longest place he stayed in one place. He kind of felt like at home here. But Aranel does show up. He's like, I have information. I need to tell you right now what is going on. It's like, Mycen's like, what? And so he gives him the rundown of what's happening about the preservation, about the universal void, about the erasures, the ties that they think has to do with Senra, but he also thinks it's most likely Cauldriff. And of course, it's going through Mycen's brain. It's like, I get some of what you're saying, some of it sounds crazy. I don't get the rest, but I get what you're saying. And then Aranel tells Mycen about the second barrier. And they're like, let's go down there. He's like, what do you mean second barrier? And Aranel tells him, yeah, so those hot springs that we've been bathing in. And Mycen's like, okay, I regret every single moment. I thought it was great being in those hot springs. And what do they find down there in the barrier, bleeding out and chained? The Megara that was friends with Senra. She chained it up and was bleeding it. And these things cannot die. So it has been in agony this whole entire time. And the Balancers organization has been around for a while. Okay, so they do release it. They ventured more into the cave. And then we come across a disturbed crypt, more like a catacomb. And we're like, okay, in this world you can't really die unless you do the ultimate absolute cannot stand this. Your soul is just in so much pain and agony and anguish and torment. Erasure. Well, we find a body with a Kaisa that is colorless. It's terrible. And they're like, when you erase, your soul just, and you remember your body goes. So how is this body still here? we realize he could have been projecting when he erased. That's why his body's here. And we go through the catacomb. We see crypt after crypt after crypt of other people. And then we come to a room that's an experimental lab with knickknacks. And when I saw the boot, I shouted out, "Umi!" And Aranel finds notes that Senra's been doing experiments to try to force ascensions and descensions to create that momentary gap to the universal void. And we see she's been testing them on the children that she's been bringing back from the villages, as well as the Sani. Well, Torali is fine, but Haravel and Remy were forced into an experiment, and Remy erasure, Haravel erasure via projection. So Senra has been doing the erasures on teammates and other balancers and the children she's taken from the villages. And now that we know what she's trying to do, trying to get to the universal void, Mazen and Aranel, they're like, what do we do? Aranel's like, I gotta go back up. I have to try to get to Paramos to try to get through the gate. And he's like, well, what am I supposed to do? He's like, find Aina. And while Aranel leaves, Mazen, who has not been able to project, finally, for the first time, forces himself to project. And that is good, because right before he projects and goes looking for Aina, we see who enters out through the Torani gate, and it's Cauldriff. One thing I will think that some people will find a little meh is because this is the only time and last time we see Cauldriff, because he greets Senra like they're old friends. And the fact that he went to Narok to get blood, because apparently he's been getting some blood to help with the ascension-descension experiments. And I think that because he's able to go in and out, he came from up above with Senra, and he created this army for her. So when she goes to the universal void and finds a way to destroy Torah gates, for him to lead his army into Ayana. Oh dear. Another thing that I think some people might have little issues, like this is more of a dialogue part of the chapter, which I actually did like. I know some people might not like because they're just talking, and I guess you could say info dumping. I liked it. This showed the relationship that Cauldriff and Senra had without, with them interacting more. This one moment, we see that they've actually been through stuff. And I have a feeling that what I keep calling Haravel, Remy, and Torali, the legendary Sani, I have a feeling that this was the original Sani group, because they keep referring to Kyrian, who was mentioned before. And I had to go back and forth because I saw that Cerium mentioned Kyrian. I was like, let me go back, and I went further back and I realized, oh, that's His Royal Highness of Pyramos, the king of Pyramos, and thus Mayana. And so that's the person that Senra's now talking about. And it sounds like that they might have been a team and they were trying to do something, but things fell apart to where it was just now Cauldriff and Senra coming up with this impossible dream that everyone felt was impossible, and now they're making it happen. But it sounds like throughout the years, tension built up between them, because we have arrogance between these two characters who are both people in power, and feels like they're starting to also point out the faults in one's actions, because Senra is very disappointed that Cauldriff can control his men from attacking Inkarza, while Cauldriff's like saying, you think it's easy trying to keep these people in hold for 10 years? I've been doing my best to give you everything you ever wanted. Also, it's not my fault kind of situation. Well, tensions eventually turn where Cauldriff is found, and Senra is basically saying the last goodbye, and she injects him for an ascension-descension experiment, and he erases. So there goes a piece of Senra's past, and she starts using her sweet words to convince Aina that imagine if we made the whole world one again. There would be no reason for war, for ascensions, descensions. We could all be in peace. Your mother, Kana, wouldn't have to fight anymore. She could just finally relax. Nothing else to burden her. Imagine that in one united world. Which we had a quick lesson about the fact that when that happened, when there's one world, it was constant war until a great schism happened and the planetary beasts divided the worlds. But it's like, don't worry, war won't last that long. It'll just be quick and short and we can all be together. She is twisting words to convince Aina to inject herself, because if she does that, that momentary forced ascension, no, she's thinking descension because she's already ascended. Well, she's gonna have to use the blood that was taken from Nakara down below from the one of the evil hellish cockroaches to force a dissension, sorta, to forcefully open that door to the universal void. And the way how Senra puts it, Aina, she does it. She does it. Arenelle arrives in Ashkator, the location where the Tirana Gate is located to enter the Universal Void in Paramos. It was a forced ascension, meaning he is not really accumulated to this area. He actually took some of what was left of the Megara, some of the blood that had spilled. The Megara actually has no problem with this because it actually helped them go up a giant waterfall that is meant to deter outsiders, especially Senra, because they have an alarm system for that situation. So the Megara, as a thing of thank you for rescuing, sends them up there to where he can begin looking for the gate. Cerium is there, and he thinks, oh my god, you ascended on your own, that's great, we can go let your parents know. And then Aaron's like, oh yeah, by the way, he takes out a vial and he injects Cerium with it that has blood for dissension, and you know what pops up? A Tirana Gate. And while it's like sucking him in, he's like, don't worry, I learned this from you. And he still has some of the vial of the Megara blood, and he drinks it to prevent his soul from getting heavied by his actions. And we watch Cerium go down. I'm like, yay, one down, one to go. We don't have time on our hands, so we run to the gate, which Cerium put someone there to guard, and it's Summerell. When Arenelle tries to tell Summerell what's going on, he realizes that the things that Summerell is saying is basically stuff that he used to recite about how, like, say, Malin would be a bad influence. It would cloud your mind, cloud your judgment, make you doubt everything that Tyrannic law is good. It's supposed to be good. It's supposed to keep everyone in line, everyone in check. And given the way that Arenelle has been exposed to what's going on in Malin, and now that he believes that, you know, since it's not really the Tyrannic law, but more of the Tyrannic gates, the shields that can be adjusted, he believes that we can actually give, you know, a chance to people. So he's starting to change his ideas, and now they're going up against Summerell, meaning these brothers now have to fight, and he knows that Summerell has been going easy on him. So when they're fighting, Summerell uses a little bit more force, and Arenelle is literally fighting with everything he has. But here's the thing, here's the plan, we have a plan. Arenelle throws everything he has at Summerell, making him want to use most of his power, which he does. And right before he throws the final strike, Arenelle projects to prevent his soul from getting as much damaged, and he watches as Summerell begins to heal his brother, begins to heal Arenelle, and when he returns back to his body, he tricks Summerell by stabbing him with, again, a monkey spine, because that causes paralysis, and he runs into the Tirana Gates. We get close to the end of the book where I was like, please, please, please help, because Maizen finds Aina, returns back to tell Kana, and they ride on the Nagamore to the location right when Anna injects herself and creates the doorway to the Universal Void, which everyone jumps into because Mycen gives Kana the rundown, and she's like, we cannot let that happen. It's like, Chief, I thought you would like this because first of all, Mycen is against this whole thing about the shields falling down, but he's just like, surprised about the Chief. And Kana's like, this is the only way to protect my daughter, okay? She needs that protection. She needs to stay safe in Mayana. If the Tirana gates go, if the shields go, not only is she not safe, no one is safe. So, when the Universal Void opens, and they go in there, and they see the cores, the power sources from the 4 planetary beasts that stuck in there after the levels were made, they now have to defend this against Senra, who, lower their connections to the Chitrons are kind of close, so whatever power they have right now, that's all they have. So, it's Kana and Mycen. It gets Senra, who, again, we know is very strong, but so is Kana, but we are still like at a disadvantage where we can't get our little power boosts. We are fighting her. We are using electricity, swords, whatever we can do. But the thing is, Senra is still a little bit powerful because she tried to do a first attack. Kana stopped her. They fight. They get exhausted because we don't know how much time is passing in this void. Senra gets the upper hand and binds Kana and Mycen, and she gets ready for a second attack. Well, lo and behold, thank God, Aranel shows up and stops Senra. It's like, yes, Aranel, thank God. But then Senra, insults to snakes all around, starts sneaking her sweet honey words to Aranel, because Aranel is already, he is disillusioned by the preservation, but he believes in the good of the Balanceres believes, just believing that Senra went about it the wrong way. But she says, if we do this right now, we are giving a chance to all the young and children to live a time of peace. And I promise you that when everything is done, there will be war, but I can bring everything to heal, and we can basically make a unified world. No one has to suffer anymore. This law that we all fall under, it will be no more. We are basically creating a new world. And Aranel sides with Senra, and Mycen is shocked. He thought Aranel, of all people, would be against Senra. He believed in Aranel. And lo and behold, Aina is here in projection form, and she watches as Aranel and Senra fight against Kana and Mycen. The 2 members of Mullen are trying to defend the way of the world, the order of things, against the people of Mayana who are trying to break the order of things. How the roles have reversed. And I'm like, oh dear. And here is Aranel and Mycen yelling and fighting at each other. Like, basically, how could you do this? And how can you not see that one way is good and the other way is bad? But you still don't understand that that is never going to happen no matter how hard people try. They are trying to reason with one another. I was like, oh my God, nothing good is going to happen. And then Kana and Senra, they are in a big fight. But then Senra tries one more time, a third attack, using all of her strength because Kana is out of power. Kana, for the love of her daughter and for her protection and knowing nothing good, we know what will happen if the worlds become one, jumps in front of the attack and is severely injured. And she's like, we stopped Senra. She no longer has power. She cannot do any harm to the course of the powers. But Senra's like, I thank you, Kana of the Khanjali, for this moment. And she uses one more vial to make a forced ascension. And Kana basically is begging Maizen, I'm sorry, look after them, look after my daughter, be safe, I am sorry. And she is erased. And Senra takes that energy, the energy source from the planetary beasts, the ones that are in that universal void, they don't break, but a line snaps. Aranel and Maizen are spat out, and the two Torana gates open up, taking Aranel back to Mayana and Maizen back to Malin. And so Aranel is a little bit guilt-wracked for what happened to Kana. He knows that Aina and Maizen will never forgive him, but he tries to make it back to Malin through the gate that he went through all those weeks ago, when there is a earthquake, shaking the earth, a shatter happens up in the sky, and the Torana gate he just made it to breaks and just is destroyed. And when we look up at the sky, we realize that even though not much damage was happened to the cores, that thread that snapped was the connection separating Malin from Mayana, and what is seeping into this world is Cauldron of Soldiers with Senra at the forefront. And while the soldiers are like, we want destruction, we want chaos, we want fire, Senra uses her words and first of all tells them about the terrible, horrible, pathetic death of their leader, and the assurance that not only will Senra give them the war that they want and the chaos they could have all over Mayana by showing the uppers what it's like to be this hard, to have suffered so much, to show them that we are more than what we think. Then we can lead it up to the kingdom of Peramos and show the king that we are here, we are about to make a new world order, and nothing can stop us. Oh, but we will make the world a better place. Oh no. And down in Malin, Maizen was looking for Aina, who woke up, and she's fighting off again the monkeys. And when Maizen sees her, she is rageful, she is vengeful, she has control over her channeling. Her Kaisa is spinning in the different direction like someone from Malin, and it's a little bit darker, but when we hear that she has a dark energy, I'm like, please don't be too dark. But she's angry, she's vengeful, she tells Maizen, why didn't you save my mother? And she's like, what? I saw everything. She is filled with hate. And she attacks Maizen, but then Aranel shows up, and then she turns all of that rage, that anger, that hatred on Aranel, and she's calling him traitor, betrayer, how could you do this? How could you help basically destroy this world? And they subdue her, and in doing so, Aranel is talking to Maizen. Maizen's just done with it. He's just tired, he's exhausted, because he tells Aranel, this is gonna be a war, but in his mind he's like, I'm tired of war, this is all we have ever done. But Aranel believes like we can still control the outcome, like we can still go in, change Toranic law to make it more just. But yeah, we have this army that's ravenous for chaos and destruction, but if we can have the Khanjalan side with Senra, we can control them, still control the mayhem. He still believes we can do the right thing even though the methods are different. But Maizen's like, there's only a few of us and they're not going to want to listen. But then Aina wakes up and she's like, we need to restore order, and I will erase anyone who gets in my way, starting with Senra. And she looks at Aranel and she's like, and if you get in my way, I will not hesitate twice. I will erase you. I will erase your existence from the world. But in doing so, she is going to go to fight for the preservation, because she knows that their thing, they're going to try to restore the status quo, meaning everything that Senra has done will be for nothing. All those erasures that she did, all those sacrifices, they will be kaput. Everything will be split back into four, and in doing so, if Aina can get her vengeance on Senra, she will do it. But in doing so, we see that Aranel is choosing a side. He is choosing Senra's side because, again, he believes in the belief of what the Balancer's mission was. He just believes we can go about it another way, even though there's about to be a bunch of death and destruction. And I believe death, because what's about to happen when Senra's soldiers start running amok in Mayana, I don't think a bunch of people are going to be able to withstand that. While Myzen just goes back to Kanjon. He has to go back to his clan to ensure their safety. Which side they're going to choose for this war, he does not know, but he just wants the safety of his clan. So our Team 7 disband, going to separate parts of this oncoming war. And the book ends with something waking up in Malin as the earth shakes and you see an eye. Do we remember, children, in class what we learned about what rests beneath in each level in the worlds? And one of them is going to be a giant peacock serpent that we see its animal children counterparts can do. And this is the original of the universe. This is not good. This is not good. And that's the end of spoilers. So you can see why when we get to a certain half of the book, when everything starts hitting the fan, I am like invested in this. Again, our Team 7 are working as a team. They have a bond. They have a connection. They know what makes the other person tick. They know where their faults are. They know when they will struggle and where they will be able to cover for them. Myzen, Aina, Arinel, they had their own agendas in the beginning of the book. They get that. But with their time spent at Inkarza, with each other, getting to actually know the parts that they were willing to expose to each other, they made the Team 7, and we saw them fight together back when the war zone was happening, and when they were trying to get out of the prison, and when Inkarza was invaded. We saw them as a team. And then, it just, my glimmer of hope was like, and Senra, when she revealed her colors, when she no longer cared that she believed she no longer cared, showed her colors, I was like, feed her to the sharks. She is an insult to snakes all around, but she believes that she is making a better world by destroying the barriers and making everything one. Well, again, children, what do we learn in class? If we make the world one, it will bring eternal war. And who wants war? Kaldra's soldiers, which again, I know some people will be disappointed that we only got one chapter, maybe a half of that, with Kaldra, and that was just like a talking bit, and that was it. But again, I like the fact that that hinted a lot about him, Senra's past, and possibly King Carian, who I think were like the original 3 Sani, to where I think something happened. These 3 people were very bright-eyed about the world, and then something happened, and it just shattered that belief, and started making them go down dark and dangerous paths. Senra, obviously, because she wants to unite everything for peace through an eternal war. And something happened with her and Carian that Kaldra would like to point out very, very much, saying, you think he's going to come down and be with us? So I think something happened in the past. I hope we get answers in book 2. But my Team 7, no. I want a happy thing. In book 2, I wish that we could have a moment where like they come back together. Where they're like, okay, we sorted out our differences, we're back together. I want happy. I love the fact that they were like at odds with each other, being bickering people, and then they came together as a team, and now something happened. This happened. Cracks happened in their bond, and now they're at odds with one another. No, I want a happy, but I don't know how that's gonna happen because Aina's out for blood after what happened. Seeing Myzen not protecting her mom, seeing Arinel's betrayal, seeing what happened to her mother, and seeing what Senra is willing to do. And the fact that through this whole book, Aina was against the whole idea with Tyrannic Law and her ideas about the preservation, and now she's there to try to restore Tyrannic Law and work with the preservation to restore it. And then we have Arinel, who's all about Tyrannic Law and believed in the preservation, and now he believes that Senra, if we do the right methods, we can give everyone the equality that they all should have, even though it's about to enter us into eternal war. And Myzen, I don't know what's gonna happen to Mycin and the Conjolan. Whoever's left in Malin, I guess they'll have to contend with it. I think there's gonna be more of them just trying to grab order where it is, but I don't know how it's gonna happen considering the fact that Mama Nagamore is waking up. So we have war. We have our teams probably gonna have to fight each other on the battlefield, and we have the possibility because again, like I said, in this whole book, mostly focusing on Mayana and Malin. Slight mentions of Nakara, not much of Paramos. Paramos, ideal place, but we were always talking about, like, if you think Malin is bad, Nakara, bad, hellish bad, to where you rather just erase yourself. If that gets released, that hellish cockroach and all of its spawn and what's down there, because there are people in Nakara, that will just, like, the eternal war, it'll just get worse. And we have Mama Nagamore picking up. The last thing we want is hellish cockroach coming out. So I have a feeling that Mycin is gonna have to deal what's left in Malin and with Mama Nagamore, and probably with Conjolan, try to prevent the last string that's connecting Malin from Nakara from snapping, because if that happens, I feel like he's got to have two war fronts going on, and Conjolan is not going to be able to do that. And whatever happens to Paramos, I am not as worried as is than Senra just raising the entire country, world level of Mayana. So, for anticipated book of 2024, did it live up to that? Yes, it did. It did. It left me shooketh, and I am scared what's going to happen to our characters in book 2, because there's a lot of bad hitting our way, and I don't think we're going to kiss and make up for a long time, which I wish we could, because I want our Team 7 to get back together and just right the world. Maybe figure out what to do with Tyrannic Law, but let's just prevent the whole world becoming one. Okay? Good? Because I don't want to deal with Mama Nagamore and hellish cockroach. So again, for those who are fans of his Dark Materials Book 1, The Golden Compass, or Avatar: The Last Airbender, or the early seasons of Naruto, give this a whirl. It will not disappoint. And yeah, Spin of Fate by A.A. Fora. 4 out of 5 stars. My name is Sarah, and bye!